I'm 96 years old, and I'm going to tell you something that might hurt. After 64 years of marriage, I believe I married the wrong person. Yes, the wrong person. And if you're married right now, there's a very good chance you did too. But don't click away, because what I learned after a lifetime of love, regret, arguments, and quiet forgiveness might be the only thing that can save your relationship. Because the truth about marriage isn't what you've been told. Not about soulmates, not about the one. It's about something much harder and much more real. I'm 96 years old. I was married to my husband for 64 years before he passed away. And there's something I need to tell you, something nobody wants to hear. You probably married the wrong person, and that's okay. Let me explain it. When I was 24, I married a man named Robert. He was handsome, kind, hardworking. He made me laugh in a way no one else could. Everyone said I was lucky. My mother cried tears of joy at our wedding. I believed I had found the one. But by year 3, something felt off. He left dishes in the sink. He stayed quiet when I needed to talk. And when I needed silence, suddenly he wanted to talk. We disagreed on money, on parenting, on his family, on mine. We argued about things so small I can't even remember them now. But back then, they felt like everything. I remember sitting there thinking, I made a mistake. This isn't what love is supposed to feel like. I married the wrong person. I was 27. I had a 2-year-old daughter. And one afternoon I sat with my neighbor Margaret, who had been married over 30 years. I told her everything. I expected comfort. Instead, she laughed. Not kindly, but knowingly. Then she looked at me and said something that stayed with me for the rest of my life. Honey, we all marry the wrong person. The trick is choosing to make them the right one anyway. I didn't understand it then, but I do now, because the person you marry is not the person you stay married to. They can't be. People change. Life changes them. The Robert I married at 24 was not the man I held hands with at 70, and not the man I said goodbye to at 88. At 30, he was ambitious and impatient. At 50, he was tired, worried about money, distant. At 70, he became soft, gentle, even silly. And at 85, he needed me to cut his food and remind him to take his medicine. Which one did I marry? All of them. And none of them, because I changed too. At 24, I was shy. At 40, I found my voice. At 52, when my mother died, I fell into a darkness I didn't think I'd escape. At 60, I became stronger. At 73, I was terrified when doctors said the word cancer. At 80, I became patient in ways I never thought possible. If the young woman I was at 24 met the woman I became at 52, she wouldn't recognize me. She might not even like me. But that's the point. You don't stay the same. Neither do they. Marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about choosing an imperfect person, again and again, as you both become strangers over time. There were years I didn't like Robert very much. I'm being honest. There were months I counted the days until he left for fishing trips, just so I could breathe. There were nights I slept on the couch, wondering what life would look like without him, but I never stopped choosing him. Not because it was easy, not because I was perfect, but because I decided this mattered. And something beautiful happened over time. The things that once annoyed me became the things I loved most. His silence, I thought it meant he didn't care, but I learned. It meant he was thinking deeply. His spending habits, I thought he was careless, but I realized he grew up with nothing, and he was trying to prove he'd escaped that life. Once I understood him, I stopped fighting him, and I started loving him differently. Marriage isn't 50-50. That's another lie. Some years it's 80-20, some years it's 90-10. There was a year after my surgery when Robert did everything. Cooking, cleaning, helping me walk. I had nothing to give but my presence. And he never complained. And then there were years when he broke, when he lost his job, when grief swallowed him whole after losing his brother. And I carried us because that's what love looks like. Not balance, not fairness, but commitment, even when it feels uneven. And let me tell you something else. Your partner cannot be everything. Not your best friend, your therapist, your adventure partner, your financial equal, your intellectual match, all at once, forever. That's too much for any human being. Robert wasn't my best friend. My best friend was Linda. Robert didn't understand the books I loved, and I didn't understand the engines he worked on. But he was my partner, and that was enough. More than enough. I'm 96 now. Robert has been gone for 8 years, and I still miss him every single day. Not because he was perfect, but because he was mine and I was his. We built a life together. We survived loss, fear, illness, mistakes. We laughed until we cried, and cried until we learned how to laugh again. So, did I marry the right person? I don't think that question matters anymore. I married a person, and then we chose over and over again to make it right. So if you're sitting there wondering if you made a mistake, you probably did. We all did. Marriage is a mistake you choose on purpose, and then spend a lifetime turning into something beautiful. The real question isn't, did I marry the right person? It's this, am I willing to keep choosing them, even when it's hard? Because love isn't a feeling, it's a decision, and you make that decision every single day. I chose Robert for 64 years, and if I had the chance, I'd choose him again